Welcome to Talking Sheffield. I'm Max Munday and you're watching Sheffield Live TV. Tonight we explore the obstacles for women in sport as Sport England launch their campaign This Girl Can. But first, our city has a long history of immigration from Yemen, and today that country's capital, Sana'a, is under military occupation by armed Huthi militia, representing communities in the north of that country. They're demanding constitutional changes and a greater role in politics, but others believe there are other forces behind this military uprising. So to discuss this crisis in Yemen, we have two members of Sheffield's Yemeni community in the studio tonight. Ibtisam Alfareh is an academic and activist, and Dr. Hamdan Dammag is a journalist and also an academic. Welcome to the show. Hamdan, first of all, is what's happening in Yemen right now a military coup?
Well, it might look at it as a military coup, but the thing is that we don't see any resistance by anyone. We don't see really a fight. The army is not really fighting. We can't really say it is a military coup, but it is a military operation anyway.
So when you say that, the Yemeni army is well financed by the American government. It presumably has weapons, it has forces. Why is nothing being done to stop the Huthi militia?
Well, I think this is not the first time we don't see the army is really defending the state or the capital. Last September we saw that the Houthi captured Sana'a and the army did not really fight. So it is again the same kind of scenarios.
Okay, but the Huthi demands for greater representation in the army and in politics. They want a vice president, don't they? Aren't they reasonable for a group of people that have a particular area in the north of the country? Isn't it reasonable that they have representation? Is that a reasonable demand that they make?
Well, the thing is, Al-Houthi is part of a very large spectrum of political powers in Yemen. So Al-Houthi is not Yemen. And in fact, it is a young and small political movement. And I think their claim is much beyond their weight. And this is actually the main problem with that. They are demanding a lot of things, and yet the others are not doing anything.
So they've got, they're basically, it's undemocratic for them to demand a lot of representation from a small group in a military way.
I think the key is what you said. They are not demanding peacefully. They are using force, and this is should not be acceptable by anyone in Yemen.
Ibtisam, you think that maybe the Houthi action could be good for Yemen?
Well, yeah, this is my own view, my own opinion.
Sure.
So, well, I'm not. Yeah, Al-Houthi is a Shia group. Yeah, and in Yemen we've got many groups actually. So I'm not from Shia or Shia member. I'm a liberal woman as well. But I think, my own opinion, I think yes.
Okay, why? In what way?
Because it's not just, they are not just representing, they are not just, you know, it's a political movement, they are social movement as well. They've been in a difficulties for a long time, and we've got a history with them and Saudi Arabia as well in the border, and I think they've got the right to be there, so why not?
So they've got the right to, do you mean have autonomy in their area, or more representation?
Yeah, more representation, and I think it's the issues around who got the power. So they are now, definitely, they are now having the very. I don't know. I think they're controlling many things, and they are very close to people, because people think they want to get out of all these horrible things, you know, the poverty, all these Yemen got a huge history with unrest as an unrest country. So people, I think, I'm not saying the majority of the people, but there is people with them and trying to find maybe they will be the solution for us. So they represent maybe a bigger demand for change in Yemen. But it's been reported that the ousted President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who has still a lot of connections, a lot of power through different means and organisations, lots of support in the army, it's been suggested that very, very recently tonight that he's been communicating with the Houthi to try and get fresh elections. And perhaps that's an attempt to get power back to the old regime. Hamdan, do you think that this is an attempt to get back the old regime on the back of the Houthi movement?
Well, maybe it is, but again, the question of elections, I think, is the only answer now in front of all this chaos we see in the country. There is no solution but for the country to go ahead with the new constitution, to conduct democratic, free, transparent elections, and whoever take the majority, they should take form the government and take responsibility.
So you agree with that, Ibtisam?
I agree with, I think sometimes we as, I don't know, the Arab culture, we're trying to blame anyone. So we've got that. Why we not think it's a Saleh, you know, Saleh is involved in this or that. We're not really focused on the problem. We keep focusing on the problem. We're not focusing on what's the solution. How are we going to change? How we should benefit from all these situations rather than trying to find out who we should blame.
Okay, so instead of it being a sinister plot, you think that actually we should say, okay, well, what are we going to do out of this situation?
Exactly.
So what sort of things? Okay, you get fresh elections. What will that solve? What will happen from fresh elections? Do you think?
Well, actually now I think Al-Houthi who's the Abdul Malik, he said something yesterday, and I was not really followed what he said, but I think what he puts it 4 points, and to resolve the problem or the current problem. I myself agree with that 4 points. And the first of all, they agreed on September, I think, they all sat together and they agreed to take forward the solution, the whole together, you know, everyone, every parties.
So get some unity.
Exactly. So avoiding that and trying to jump on that point, it's not really fair for Yemen, and Yemen really need to be settled, and the national, the regional community need to support Yemen in this. So not trying to just putting the oil on the fire, trying to just look at Yemen, how that can happen.
So okay, so what do you think stopping unity in Yemen, Hamdan?
I think unity is there. It's just that we have lots of problems, and I'm sure everyone agree now that there is a social problem. There is a social fraction now in the society.
Well, between whom?
Well, between the people who are from the north, from the south. We have also a sectarian divide in the society.
So that's about Shia and Sunni?
Yes, which we did not have in the just recent 5 or 6 years.
Really?
So we are facing new challenges that we did not have in the past as well. The military presence of certain powers also is a great challenge to the civil stability of the country. Yemen had enough of wars and had enough of instability. I think we need to focus on how to make the country stable, to focus on the economy. Half of the population are below the poverty line. I think this is a key issue. We have to focus on education, health, infrastructure. So I think we should really get rid of all these how do I say, you know, political you know, differences, and think what are the major challenges of the Yemeni people, and go back to dialogue and try to solve the problems between all the political parties in a peaceful way. And again, I stress on a peaceful way, because this is the only way for a future Yemen.
And Ibtisam, you mentioned about regional powers putting fuel on the fire potentially.
Sure.
Who are we talking about when you say that?
Well, honestly, and everyone knows that it's Saudi Arabia and Qatar. They've got they've got their own agenda, and everyone knows that. We shouldn't hide it. You know.
What agenda would they have in Yemen?
Well, you know, that's fight between Iran and that argument between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Why Yemen should pay for it? If the Shia party or if the Houthi party or the Houthi movement want to take the power and rule the country, it's Yemen's business. It's not Iran's business or Saudi Arabia business. Let Yemenis solve their own problems. Don't just keep reporting. All the media, the Saudi Arabian media, TV or whatever, they always reported the Shia taking power, the Shia doing that, the Iran doing that. It's not fair. Yemeni people need, and they have to focus on their own problems rather than keep listening to others.
And so when people talk about a Shia-Sunni divide, or talk about the Huthis as just a Shia issue, do they really mean, is it code for Iran? And when they talk about Sunnis, is it code for Saudi Arabia?
This is not the Yemeni issues. We never think we are divided. We are one group. They are Shia or I'm Sunni or whoever. It's not anyone's, you know, business. And Yemen we always living with each other with no problem.
So because Yemen is a poor country and it is not,
they're making it a poor country.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be. That's the point.
Sure.
But you're saying that these rising sort of regional imperialisms, if you like, from Iran and Saudi Arabia are trying to influence and have this competition that's playing out.
Well, yeah,
in Yemen.
They said that, but my own opinion, Houthi has nothing to do with Iran.
No, okay, no. Now, in terms of the influence of other countries, one of the areas that American commentators and politicians and British politicians have been talking about in the last few days has been what this means for the fight against terrorism. Now, Hamdan, the alliance that Obama has made with President Hadi has been quite important to allow drone attacks in the country and to combat Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula. What effect could this military rising and this conflict right now, what could that have on the ability to combat terrorism?
Right. If you might just allow me to comment on about the involvement of other countries in the Yemeni crisis. I think it is evident now that Yemen has been a playground for different countries fighting for different reasons, and I include easily Saudi Arabia and Iran. This is not happening only in Yemen. This is happening in Syria and other what is called as Arab Spring countries. So we are not different from other countries who've been a playground of other international or regional forces. As for the question on terrorism, the cooperation between the US and the even former President Ali Abdullah Saleh was to fight Al-Qaeda and their terrorist activities, and this also carried on with Hadi. Now the problem is that Al-Qaeda, because of the instability of Yemen, has gained a lot of power, and they are now very well organized. They might even think in the future to be the headquarters of Al-Qaeda in the region. And the problem is that some people thought that by supporting a military Shia movement, it will be good to fight Al-Qaeda because they think they are representing the Sunnis. And I think this is a very dangerous game. We should not really rely on any military political powers to raise and control the country, because as they have also supporters, the Houthi, they also have opponents. And we don't want the opponents of Al-Houthi to go and put hands with Al-Qaeda. and or even to give them shelter or to support them either by force or even by thoughts. And this is actually happening. We have seen many people who used to be in the Brotherhood.
The Muslim Brotherhood.
The Muslim Brotherhood, who are now supporting Al-Qaeda as to oppose Al-Houthi.
Right.
So this is.
So they've been pushed from a kind of a soft Islamist position to a harder, more militant position.
That's right. And we should be very careful about this because we don't want to solve a problem and create a bigger problem.
Ibtisam, isn't that the big issue, that even if Al-Houthi represent a desire for change, a desire to improve things, if movements of social change then disrupt things in a way that actually leads to a worse situation of Al-Qaeda becoming more ascendant, how can you deal with this situation?
Al-Qaeda, they are strong anyway. They are strong in Yemen. They are in a very good position in Yemen, especially in South Yemen. So everyone knows that, and it's reported internationally. But we have to think about Al-Qaeda or Islamic States. They are Sunni group, but they are against Sunni as well. So they're not against Shia or Al-Houthi or whoever. So they are against anyone who against them. So we don't need to think about Al-Qaeda like they are Sunni group, they're fighting Houthi group. It's not, or Shia group. That's not fair, especially in Yemen's case. We know actually we are really peaceful people. We don't want to support any conflict in Yemen. We don't want to support. If Al-Houthi going to move from this a social movement, I call it a social movement. If he's going to move from that stage to another stage, we are not with them. Definitely, we are not with Al-Qaeda from the beginning, and we can't support them in any way. So we're not going to change the worst situation to the, I don't know, it's the mess. So it's not fair for Yemen. So we need Al-Qaeda to go out of Yemen totally. So we don't want America or USA to be involved again, because they send in their what they call it, their military groups or someone to fight Al-Qaeda, and they're killing actually the innocent people. So we don't want that to happen. And till today, we are in the better position than Syria and Iraq, and Libya. So we're still in a very good position actually. Because
even though Al-Houthi is Shia mainly, it isn't the sort of sectarian situation you saw after the Americans invaded Iraq, for instance. And you don't think it's going to go that way?
No, definitely. Hopefully, yes.
No, absolutely. So what can prevent the situation getting worse, Hamdan? What do you think? What could change now that might relieve some of the tension? What other than elections? You've mentioned that.
Well, I think first of all, we have during the last 3 days we have seen an absence of other political parties, political figures. We don't know where they went, and we only hear about the president and Al-Houthi. Well, the country is not only the president and Al-Houthi. There are many others who should be involved and who should actually take action and take responsibility in finding a peaceful solution to the crisis, which involves everyone. And so, again, we must be serious about solving the problem, sitting together, conducting dialogue again. We have a constitution to vote for. If we have comments, if we have a problem with it, we should state it in a peaceful and civil way, and we should get the country running. And I think in the long run, what we have to do is to set an environment for a transparent election to take place, and then for the country to get stable and go on with its business.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Hamdan Dammag and Ibtisam Alfareh. Stay with us after the break as we discuss how to get more women into sport and more women active with the This Girl Can campaign with sportswomen and indeed